today we have a very special guest. Angie Borras is one of our dear friends. She is actually one of our mentors as well in real estate. And as everybody knows that has been following this podcast so far, what we like to do is we like to talk about real estate as it relates to the military community. Amber and I are, I'm retired, but Amber's getting ready to retire, as we're all aware. So what we want to do is help those military folks, active duty or veterans, no matter what branch of service you're in, find some good opportunities, maybe find some good mentorship out of these episodes. And we definitely want to connect with y'all. So today we brought on Angie, and we actually have a pretty good history with Angie. As soon as we moved to Texas, we got connected to Angie, and she has been an amazing part of our real estate investment journey. And she is an amazing mentor. She's very, very successful in real estate. She's doing a lot of good things. She's been in this industry for a very, very long time. Just a wealth of knowledge. Happy to have you, Angie. And let's go ahead and, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into your bio. I know Amber is just raring to go as far as the questions are concerned. So what do you got for us, Amber?
Yeah, I'm super excited about this. Angie is our first female, right? She's our first female. And I'm so happy about it because you are a boss bitch, Angie. So I'm glad to have you on as a fellow Texan. You've been in real estate in Texas since 1996, right? So a very long time, a huge wealth of knowledge. You started houses in San Antonio back in 96. And you're a part of the National Association of Realtors, San Antonio Platinum Top 50 from 2013 to present. You've just been a huge part of even the veteran community, Military City, USA, down in San Antonio, giving back. And a big part of what we want to talk about today is the American Spirit Alliance, which you founded and have been running since 2014. So we're excited to have you on to learn from you. I know you have a lot of lessons learned. I'd love to hear about your why. Why did you start in San Antonio? And why is San Antonio so close to your heart? And just learn about your story. So excited to have you here. And thank you for being on with us.
Thank you. I appreciate being here and having the opportunity to talk to all of y'all. I landed in San Antonio because of my hubby. He's military. He's now retired Army. Thank you, Lord. But like a good wife, I followed him wherever he went, right? And so I fortunately, in following him, the jobs that I took all led to what I do now. I worked as a paralegal. I worked in commercial real estate. I worked property management. And I worked patient administration division, which is not real estate, but it was administrative and organizational, And I was one that was never shy to learn everybody's job. I didn't have a problem being a plug for anyone. I learned as much as I could from the bottom to the top. I could sweep, I could do analysis, I could bring you coffee, I could do it all. So I was not, I come from very humble beginnings, so none of that was below or above me to do. So I think that all that attitude has brought me success, because I brought that into my real estate career. Once we landed here in San Antonio, my husband was towards the latter portion of his career. And so I was wanting to do something a little bit more fun, So I thought real estate would be fun. And and oh my God, it is fun in a way, but it's a lot of responsibility. It's a lot of client. You just don't, and it's a lot of work. When you first start your real estate career, a lot of agents think that it's, easy peasy, but I mean, those can easily turn to be 20-hour days. And for a long, long time, you'll be working 80-hour weeks or so. to make things rev up. As a matter of fact, I remember when I first got started, I would plan my route. And because I was new to the San Antonio area, if I had 10 houses to show the following day, I would actually drive that route the night before, even if in the dark, because with my Ferguson map, because back then it was like this, it wasn't on an app telling me anything. So, so that I didn't look stupid or lost when I was showing property, right? So, I mean, it's those kinds of things that people don't know that people like me are doing on the back end, but it makes us look better, because you're preparing yourself. You want to be better, right? You want to prepare yourself. You don't want to look dumb. And so that was the type of agent that I was at the beginning. And so, and all of it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So it sounds like in the beginning, you started off as a real estate agent. That was how you chose to, so to speak, kind of dip your toes in the water as it refers to, or as it relates to real estate. And what I'm hearing is that, as with anything, you've got to be responsible, you got to be reliable, you got to be punctual, you got to be well spoken. Sometimes you got to be, you have to fight for what you want. And that's something that I'm particularly. I'm sorry?
You have to have strategy, or what I call strategery.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So in the beginning, though, like, when you joined the military, and I'm sure you understand this, being that you were a military spouse. One of the things that I particularly enjoy, and something that I've learned a lot from Amber about, is the concept of mentorship. Can you, or in the beginning of your real estate journey, did you perhaps have a mentor, or did you have somebody that was kind of hand walking you in the very beginning, or were you kind of just figuring it out as you went?
As far as mentorship, I have to say no, but I was very big on going to my sales manager on the daily. I mean, I walk into his office in the morning, even though you're an independent contractor and you don't have a set schedule. You set that yourself. I actually disciplined myself. First thing in the morning, go, and I would sit in his office and I would tell him everything that I wanted to do that day and everything that I wanted to accomplish. And to me, he wouldn't write anything down or come back and ask me, did you do it? Whatever. I would have a cup of coffee with him and I would tell him, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And I'm sure that he was just bored to pieces, with my conversation. But it held me accountable because I just said it out loud, and so mentally, to me, that was like, holy crap, now I have to go do this and do that, And so I would do it. As a matter of fact, so my first listing, my first property management, I looked at the expired list and I chose 3 houses. I did comparative market analysis. I did all the work. I put together a package and a folder, and I went to those 3 houses, personally knocked on doors. And the first door that I knocked on, nobody answered. And I was so happy that nobody answered, right? Because what the hell am I going to do after they answer the door? I don't know. I was just going to go, can I have your business, right? So I did, I did the first door, the second door, the third door opened.
Ooh.
The third door opened, and it was retired Colonel Baylor McCormick. May he rest in peace, because he's now passed. Okay. And this older man opens up the door, and I said, "Sir, I noticed that your listing expired on the system, and I was wondering if you were still interested in selling or renewing or what have you." In selling, because it was a sale. And he said, "Come on in, young lady." And I'm like, "Oh, uh-oh, I'm going in." Right? So I went in 2 hours later. Okay. I learned this man's whole military history. I learned that his wife had passed away, that he had been in his house now for 2 years, that his family was in Hawaii. There was others in Nevada, and that he was the only one left in San Antonio. And I just looked at this older man that was really lonely. You know, he was alone. Even though he has family and grandkids and all that stuff, he was alone. And it just made me so sad. And I'm like, "Mr. McCormick, why don't you just rent this property out? You what's wrong with monthly income if you can't get what you want for it on a sale?" And so, oh my God. Then I prepared a whole report about, so he insisted he wanted to sell it. And I went ahead and listed it and all that stuff. And after a month, I made him this whole report because he's a retired colonel. That's all that's all. And plus, I know analysis. So I prepared a whole report and I showed him, what the comps were doing and all that stuff. And I said, "I can make you this on a monthly basis. What's wrong with you making this on a monthly basis? You own it outright. Go be with your kids in Hawaii, you know?" And so guess what? So his daughter calls me a week later and she goes, "You've accomplished what nobody else has been able to accomplish for years. We've been telling this man to move. And I don't know what it is that you did." And I said, "This was just math in a report, I swear." and just sitting with him and making him realize that life's too short to get stuck on real estate, And so he moved to Hawaii. I started managing that property. I managed it for like 20 years. When he passed, every now and then I'd have to call him and I forget the time change, and I'd wake him up and he goes, "No, no, no." I say, "I'm sorry, Mr. Bork, I'll call you a little bit later." And he goes, "Oh, no, no, no." He was just the sweetest,
Yeah,
and if you set yourself aside and really listen to what others need and what's going on in their life, you can really, really make a difference. You can really, really make a difference. And so that's all I sometimes I feel like a priest because some people will tell me their sins and I'll absorb it, because this is the confidentiality thing that we have going on as real estate agents, right? And so you never divulge what they're telling you or what have you if it's going to make financial impact on your client, right? But
absolutely.
yeah, you just
So
listen. If you listen, you can help in so many ways.
that's huge, and that's something that I love. And I don't think maybe there's enough emphasis on your mindset is such that in the military you serve the American people, like hands down. That's what it is. You've got leaders upon leaders upon leaders, but in real estate, yep, as it relates to being a real estate agent, that's the kind of mindset that you have to have. Is you are sort of a servant of the people that you are taking care of, that you're doing their listings for, that you're doing the property management for. When it comes to mindset, though, what are some of the what I'm trying to get at is there's a particular mindset when you have to be a real estate agent, or if you want to be a successful real estate agent. What are some of the mindsets, or what would you say was your mindset when you switched to becoming a real estate investor. Like, what are the differences there?
Question. Look, we're on the same. Like, how did you make that switch from just
Yeah.
agent to an investor?
So when I got into real estate, I wanted to invest. That was one of my goals, because how do you teach people that you can do, you can invest, right? Plus, I've always been on the mindset that most millionaires, billionaires own a lot of real estate, right?
You're absolutely right.
That's because the roof over your head is the catalyst to wealth building for anyone. So when we first moved to San Antonio, we started looking at apartments, right? And I went from one apartment to the other, to the other, to the other. And I thought, I hate them all, and how much do they charge and all that. And then I came across one that was, then I realized that I can use my husband's VA and go zero down and all that stuff. And, a light bulb, turned on. And so we got our first little duplex. I'm sorry, this was in El Paso before we got to San Antonio. And I sold that thing and made a little bit of money. It was not a lot of money, but we sold it and we made a little bit of money. Then we moved here to San Antonio. We purchased right away because, again, I was not going to pay anybody rent when I could buy. And so we purchased a house in Converse. I got my real estate license and I started looking at investments and all that stuff. But then I realized that there was a lot of bank foreclosures on the market. And then I saw that the listing agents for these bank foreclosures, you'd go into the houses and the houses were a mess. I mean, they weren't clean. They were a mess, right? So I said, well, if these agents are doing such a lousy job of maintaining the houses, I wonder if I can help, right? I wonder if I can help. I wonder if I can help these banks present the houses better so that they can make more money. That light bulb, right? So I made a list of all the agents that had bank foreclosure listings. And I called each and every one up and I said, hey, you guys would you have lunch with me and tell me how you did that, how you got listings from the bank? And they, one after the other, was like, nah, it's hard. It's hard to get in. No, it's okay. We don't need lunch, right? So I said, okay. You think that would be the end of that conversation, right? No. So then I go back and I take a look at their inventory and I'm like, okay, you've got Bank of America. I'm going to Bank of America. You've got Department of VA. I'm going to Department, and I started going after all these banks and saying, you don't know me from a hole in the wall, but I'm a Hispanic female. And if you have to meet that demographic to issue out listings, go ahead and send me your worst asset. And if I blow it out of the park, please send me more. That was my strategy.
There you go.
The first one I went in was, I'll never forget, it was on Cain. It was $18,000 listing. I had to climb over the fence to access it. Once I accessed it, I got full of fleas. I left that house going like this in a bra. I think I was the first one to ever show a bra back in 1984 because the construction guys were across the street going, what's wrong with that lady? I was trying to get the fleas off of me. Yeah, that was the first one. And so I sold that one, and then I just kept going after banks. By the time it was done, I had like 65 bank clients that would send me at least 2 listings a month, it was craziness. And so that's when I started my
Wow.
team. I mean, I had somebody that would handle the accounting, because then I have to be careful what you wish for, right? You have to pay for their bills, and then wait for them to
Yep.
reimburse you and all that stuff. Um, so I ended up in that situation. And then here's another kicker. You find out that you can't touch or buy any of these assets, right? They won't. You
Hmm.
sign a master listing agreement saying that you will not compete, that you're not going to sell your listing to your mama or your daddy, or none of these things. So yeah, so I would have to, and there were
Interesting.
a few that I bought from my clients. Don't get me wrong, but they were aged assets that at the end I would ask permission. I'm like, hey, you still haven't sold this one, blah 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 blah, and I'll buy from you minus my commission or what have you, and they'll take it up the chain and they'll go, okay, you can buy that one, So, um, but most of the assets that I purchased and all that stuff were from other agents and other banks that I never represented. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. That's a great strategy, I'll tell you. And you mentioned that once you kind of got to a certain point, you had sort of established the relationship with the banks and the folks at those banks.
Mhm.
And that's really what I think it comes down to is, everything. I can't deal in absolutes, so I'll retract that statement. But what I would point out is, in order to get where you need to go, no matter what industry you're in or what market you're in, I think a lot of times it falls on the relationships that you're able to develop. Can you effectively cultivate relationships? And when it comes to what you were just saying, I think it absolutely dealt with, the relationships that you were able to build. But to move on from that thought, you mentioned that you were building a team. Is that the point? These things started happening, and you're developing a portfolio for yourself. You're soaking up and buying pieces of real estate that you own. But is that the point that houses in San Antonio came into the picture? And can you tell us a little bit about the houses in San Antonio piece?
So the brokerage started by osmosis, right? I started out with Prudential, a big company, right? Prudential. And and then I went to Keller Williams. And when now I'm at Keller Williams and I've got an assistant. And as we start growing and all that stuff, and I'm paying bills, and I start realizing, do I really need to pay that much of a split to another brokerage, right? So I separate myself from because I'm bringing in, about 120 listings a month, right? And so that in itself becomes a magnet for other agents, because then I need buyer agents. I can't
Yep.
handle phone calls that come in asking me about this house or that house. So every house got assigned a buyer's agent that would handle all those calls for that particular property. And so that's how I expanded. I just recruited agents to handle those calls. The only people I ever talked to were my asset managers, because there's only so much time in the day,
Mhm.
and I can't help a buyer, when I'm running around all God's creation, trying to do for my clients. Not only that, but then I ended up, you know, uh, employing my husband, who was retired, you know, and
Awesome.
employing another who would just drive around the city and take photos and make sure that the house was clean and that the services that I had initiated were done and all that stuff, while I sat at the office and did reports from what they brought back to me, and communicated with my asset managers. And so as long as you can keep a rhythm, and organize yourself well, you can make things happen. Yeah. I
Absolutely.
mean, know what your strengths are, know where your weaknesses are, and
Mhm.
and plug where your weaknesses are. And to me it was buyer agency. I needed buyer agents. That's how I started my brokerage.
That's an amazing accomplishment, first off. So I applaud you for being able to start your own brokerage. I think that's ultimately what a lot of people may strive for, right?
Mhm.
Because there is, like, everybody knows, not everybody, but there is wealth to be made in real estate, and that's something like, and it ties back to what you were talking about earlier. It can be fun, you can build relationships, and there's also wealth to be made. There's a lot of impact. I love that story about Mr. McCormick. There is actual, there's tangible impact to be made in a positive way for the betterment of everybody, or the betterment of you and your family, the betterment of the buyer or the seller, perhaps. But I know, and I feel bad for taking this long to send it over to Amber, but I know that she's probably got some questions. So I'll send it over to you, babe. What do you got?
Yeah, I think that was a great lead in for really the meat and potatoes of what I wanted to dig into with you, because now, we understand a little bit about your story, where you started as a real estate agent who was just out there grinding, looking for opportunities. It sounds like you took a lot of initiative, which is, I think, what people don't really understand when they're trying to be entrepreneurs or investors of any sort, how much it actually takes, that you have to put yourself out there and take the initiative. Because we see a lot of people coming out of the military who are so used to structure. They're told where to be, what time, in what uniform, and it's pretty easy, right? From our perspective, being in the military for 20 years, we've been told where to go and what to do for 20 years. But when you go into entrepreneurship, and especially as a real estate agent, it takes that grind, it takes that initiative. And you also understood the people part of it, of building the relationships. So you obviously built a successful career starting from the ground all the way to your brokerage. You grew a huge real estate portfolio for yourself. At what point did you decide you want to start giving back and you started the American Spirit Alliance? I really want to hear about how that started, how that manifested, who you got connected to do that, and what that process was like for you.
Well, I'll tell you that American Spirit Alliance started very selfishly. Okay. It started as when I first bought the building here in Castle Hills for the 4th of July. I decided to plant flags on every one of the yards in Castle Hills with my little houses in San Antonio business card attached to it. Okay. And I did a little ceremony before I sent out volunteers, believe it or not, volunteers to do all this. I did a little ceremony where I was, and I said, I don't know if y'all knew, but the Northwest Military Corridor has a history that back in the 1940s, the troops from Fort Sam Houston would trek 22 miles, up through brush and all that good stuff, all the way to Camp Bullis for artillery training, because it was not allowed within city limits. And once I was done with that little ceremony, the neighbors came to me and said, "Wow, I didn't know that. I didn't know that." And I said, "What?" And I said, "Okay, next year, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to start the American Spirit Alliance. I'm going to try to do a business organization, right? That we'll have luncheons and all that stuff. And then we'll do flags from 410 all the way to Camp Bullis on the Northwest Military Corridor, thousands and thousands of flags. And everybody thought I had lost my mind. And I said, and this time it's not going to be me. It's going to be the American Spirit Alliance, and I'm not going to promote it. It's not going to be, this selfish thing. It's going to be a nonprofit, blah, 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 that I leave behind when I die. And so here we are, It started out, it's evolved. It started out with business organizations. You'd be surprised at how many businesses they want to get together, network, and share each other's business cards, but they don't want to do anything for the community. And that was a hard reality for me, because I was like, why wouldn't you want to? Why wouldn't you want to do something in the community that you're in, And so I was a little disappointed. So I said, yeah, I'll do it myself, like everything else. If I can't find somebody that will do it with me, I'll do it myself. And so here we are.
I love that. The fact that what it's evolved into is something that Amber and I are quite passionate about. The American Spirit Alliance is a nonprofit, like you were just saying. It's a 501c3 nonprofit organization that deals with giving back specifically to the veteran community. And that's something that Amber and I are very passionate about. So I really respect, and also I really appreciate the fact that you were able to allow us to help you in that effort. But it's evolved since then, right? So there's now it's a, what you had taught us is that it started off as a flag planting event. There was a ceremony. There were some things that happened. Volunteers came together. There was a flag planting ceremony, and that kind of evolved into a few days where you were planting flags. And then there was an event that came after that. The lead in was that flag planting event was the lead in for a relay that you did one year. I believe it was 2019 was the last year that the relay happened. And what we're trying to do now is we're trying to reinvigorate that effort in order to, affect to a greater degree community awareness, community engagement, things like that. And also to promote some competition and do some better things for the community, provide a better platform. So how did it come to be that you wanted to develop a relay race? How did that come about?
Well, so in 2019, San Antonio celebrated its tricentennial year. And by then I had gotten news media coverage and all that good stuff from previous years on that flag planting event. And it was always my goal, because the troops trekked from Fort Sam Houston to Camp Bullis. So I wanted to emulate that somehow, The flag planting event was awareness for the community, but it always in my mind that I wanted to duplicate that effort. And I thought, they have a Salado Creek trail and all that good stuff. And so I said, most people can't do 22 miles right now. There's not very 22 miles runners or walkers or anything right now. So I said, well, let's make it a relay run, because my husband and my kids have participated in the Corpus Christi relay run beach to bay. And that's always been fun. So I thought, well, why not incorporate that over here? So when I was tagged on the shoulder, by the Military Affairs Office for the city of San Antonio to do the tricentennial, I said, I'm going to incorporate the relay run this year. And so that's what I did. And I had one guy who ran the 22 miles complete, from Fort Sam Houston to Camp Bullis. But the rest of them were teams, relays, And so, and then COVID hit, we got shut down for a couple of years and all that stuff, which was a bummer. And then I decided to, wrap things up and all that stuff. So that's why I am so excited that y'all have joined in the effort to help me revive this. And y'all have done a fantastic job. I really, really appreciate it. I'd hate to see the idea or the history go gently into the night. So thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Absolutely. Well, I am a firm believer in I don't want this to go in a political direction, but we are doomed to repeat history if we forget it. So keeping history alive is something that I respect about what you've done. And you taught us about the battalion that came out of Fort Sam and did their trek, and something that, I personally, I was a field artillery soldier, started off as an enlisted guy, went warrant officer, and I was field artillery branch my entire military career. So learning that those soldiers went from Fort Sam all the way to Camp Bolas to do um, artillery training was very interesting to me. So I feel like I can add some value there. Sorry if y'all heard that. My dog is going nuts in here. But history absolutely is a huge part of this. I'm just grateful that you even thought of us, in that way, to be able to, come on board and be able to help you out with American Spirit Alliance. And what we're going to do is we're going to provide some information in the show notes. We're going to give, all of your information, if you'll have it, your social media, your websites, ways that folks can reach out and contact you. But in order to kind of round out the whole discussion, so if you're a military soldier and you're listening to this, if you're an active duty or a veteran, no matter what it is, even if you're a civilian, it doesn't matter. We have a heavy emphasis on the military community because we are military and we're still active duty. I'm retired now. You are a military spouse. We live in San Antonio, which is dubbed as Military City, USA. That's one of the reasons why Amber and I wanted to retire here. We just get the chance to meet some amazing folks. There's military everywhere you go down here, and it's just rich with history. But if you are listening to this and you are military and you are interested in real estate and how you can be involved, where you can go, there's so many opportunities. So what I want to ask you, Angie, now is, are you still interested in helping military individuals, or are there opportunities for individuals to come to you, and whether that's looking for mentorship, they want to start their military career, I'm sorry, their real estate journey, maybe as an active duty soldier or a veteran, are you still interested and or open to helping those folks out, like in any sort of capacity?
Absolutely, I am. Absolutely. I mean, if I can do it, you certainly can. And all it takes is accountability, right? You have to be accountable to yourself and to your own goals. And then maybe all it takes as far as mentorship is sitting down with your cup of coffee early in the morning and saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this, I'm going to go visit here, I'm going to go visit there, and then it goes into your mind and you're like, oh shit, I better get it done. So I'd be more than happy. I have a program in my brokerage called BAM. And the reason why I call it BAM is my acronym for basics, accountability, and mentorship, right? So basics is
Love it.
what your systems are, for what your tools of your trade are. I'll teach you what your tools of the trade are, right? Then accountability, right, is your goals, what you set out for yourself. We're going to break that down, okay? And then the BAM, the mentorship, is you coming back to me and me going back to you saying, did you do this? Did you do that? Did you do this? Did you do that? Right? And how do you do this? How do you do that? How do you accomplish this? Right? That's the mentorship part. Because if you haven't accomplished it, then you need a little bit more guidance on how to accomplish it. But you set up your own accountability, right? So that's why I call it BAM, Basics, Accountability, and Mentorship.
That's huge. I love that. First of all, I love everything that you have talked about so far.
Military spouse. I worked with the Department of Defense. So acronyms.
Yeah.
There you go. Absolutely. But I know we're almost at our limit as far as time goes. We try to keep these short and more digestible than a 2 hour long podcast. I have many more questions, and which is why I'm grateful that we still get to work together. I know you're back and forth between San Antonio and Florida a lot, but the fact that you are, keeping open lines of communication with us is something that I'm very grateful for, because Amber and I are just stepping into our real estate investing journey. Primarily, first off, as investors, Amber's set to get her real estate agent's license by the end of 2023. So we're at the very beginning. So this is very exciting for us as well. And we want to take everybody that's listening to this podcast along with the journey with us. We want to learn and grow as you learn and grow. But to round this out, we usually like to take a moment. I like to kind of help people understand what you have going on. Like, this is the part where you get to be a little bit selfish on the episode and say, this is what I've got going on. This is why I'm in Florida. This is what I'm currently pursuing. Here's my goals. This is where you can reach me. This is where you can find me, connect with me. However you want to share with the audience, what you've got going on and how they can get in touch with you.
So we've recently moved our homestead to Florida, to Tampa. And so I'm expanding the brokerage over there. I'm going to launch House Savvy. I've had it for forever, planning, expanding and all that stuff in different markets. I just haven't. And so I'm taking the opportunity and doing that over there. You have been instrumental in reviving it. That is near and dear to my heart. And so I want to help you all as much as I can with that. And that's pretty much it. I mean, if y'all need to invest, and right now, my goal is to make sure that my children can also invest. So, I'm guiding them in that area as well. Now that I'm retired, and they're going all over even though they've been following my example. They never rent. They always buy. Mom has been a big goodbye. As a matter of fact, here's an advice that I'm going to give all of parents out there who has kids that are going to college. Okay. If you can buy a little investment property, okay, put your child's name on it, okay, do what they call an FHA kiddie condo loan, which is just 3%, okay, down. You can wrap all the other closing costs in it, okay, and when you add your child's name and social security number to that loan and that property and that mortgage, your child's credit score will go to the 800s, okay, which then will allow them in their future to not have to go through any high credit card. You know how some clients will give their child a credit card to establish credit? I'm like, that's horrible, because what you're doing is showing that child how to get into debt and how to pay the minimum payment. Okay, instead, save 3%, buy a kiddie condo, even if they're not going to occupy it, they can rent it. You can rent it out and make money off of it. Okay, it's just a matter of putting your child on that note so that you can help them with their future financing from the minute they have that 18 years. Okay, so that they don't start behind on the credit scores and all that stuff to have to establish credit.
Great.
So I did that. I remember going to buy a car for my daughter. She was about 19 and she wanted to put the note in her name. And when they pulled her credit and they go, how old are you? And she says, I'm 18, I think 19. And they say, how did you end up with a credit score like that? And then they were trying to insist that I still had to co-sign. And I'm like, no, I don't have to co-sign for that. Not according to credit laws. I don't. I will, because I want her to have the car, but I don't have to. And he goes, let me talk to my manager, blah, 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 blah. And yeah, it turned out that I didn't have to.
Wow.
So very important for
Absolutely.
people who have kids that are going to college and you're trying to establish credit and all that stuff. Learn a lot about credit. Credit is important. You can do so much and build wealth through credit.
I totally agree. And that's one of the ways that you can, it's an easy way. 3% is very low, especially in today's economy. But using 3% to purchase a condo like that and immediately start building equity, that's literally the formula that you can use to develop wealth.
And way back when, my first rehab was $18,000. It was on the south side of town. I bought it with the credit card. Advance. We built a little closet on one of the rooms. We painted it, and I sold it in 30 days for $35,000.
Wow.
So when my credit card bill came, I paid the 17 and I kept 18.
Yep.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's
There's
awesome.
lots of ways to do it.
A whole other podcast we need to do. We need to do a part 2 with Angie and learn
I
more.
totally agree. Yes. So what we'll do is, and you are a wealth of knowledge. There are so many tips and tricks that we want to extract from that brain of yours that has so much experience and so much knowledge. I think that's a great idea. We definitely need to do a part 2 of this with Angie. But to round this out, if you like this, if you found a little bit of value here, or if you want to get connected with Angie, check out the show notes. Go ahead and hit that like button. Go ahead and subscribe to this podcast, because this is not going to stop. We're going to bring more folks. It's going to eventually expand from San Antonio as one of our BAM as far as the ambitions go, or the accountability piece of BAM. That's one of our goals, is to get this to a wider audience, because the U.S. military is everywhere around the world, and we want to touch and help as many people, not physically touch, but just add value to as many military individuals as we can. Like I said, active duty or retired. So, Angie, thank you again for being with us. You have been an amazing guest.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
You can reach me. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. We are out of here. Amber, any last thoughts?
No, thank you so much, Angie. Loved having you. First female representing. Love it. Thank you.
Thank you. Y'all can reach me at Angie@housesinsanantonio.com is my email, or my cell phone is 210-823-4560. God bless. Take care. God bless America.
Absolutely. All right, guys.